Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call this regularly scheduled November 28th City Commission meeting to order. Before I ask for an approval of the agenda, I just want to take note that we did have a typo. We advertised that we were changing something on 236. Item 9 is 236. It should have been 235. We have corrected that. It went out in the paper correct, and it's correct now. But just in case you printed off an agenda a few days ago, just want to point that out to you. And with that, may I have an approval of the agenda as it was published?
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Martin. All those any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor, which is to approve the agenda as it was published. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Is Pastor Lowry here? Oh, he's right there. He's right there. We're going to please rise for the saying of, for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to follow. Pastor Lowry from Fresh Wind at Mount Zero Baptist Church. Welcome, sir.
Would everyone bow their heads, please? Lord, we thank you for this night. We thank you for this 28th day of November 2022. And we thank you for the reason and the purpose that we're here. Now, Lord, we pray that we're mindful that the work, the labor, the business that we do is in your sight, because you see everything, you hear everything, and you already know everything. So now guide us and direct us, and that this will be a peaceful meeting, and that we will conduct business and do the things that we have come to do. We thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Lowry. All right, now we have presentations. First item of tonight is a bittersweet moment. We have a long-term employee who is retiring. And before I read this proclamation in, Mike, did you have any comments that you wanted to say?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, we celebrate when we hire a new employee, and but we celebrate more when we see our valued employees reach that milestone that we're all seeking, which is retirement. And Deborah has been a highly regarded, valuable employee to the city for 14 years now, and she has given us all guidance. From day one, she has been a mentor to me, and so she has faithfully served the residents of Newberry for 14 years. Every decade with the city of Newberry has been a progression, and so I don't want to credit Deborah would be in the original human resources professional in Newberry, because that would be not justice to those before her. But she really did bring human resources to new levels because of her background and her training. And I credit her with what I consider today a very professional human resources department. And I believe Deborah deserves much of the credit for it. We're really going to miss her. She's they talk about the glue that holds it all together. Deborah is that one person that kept us all feeling good about coming to work every day, even though we may be frustrated about whatever issue is on hand. She always managed to see, to remind us what a great workplace this was and what a great community we were in. And she just has that wonderful knack for making people feel comfortable when they came to work here. So we are sad to see Deborah leave us after 14 years, but we're excited. She became so enthralled with Newberry that she just put her house up for sale, bought property in Newberry, and built her a place out here. She wanted to be a resident more than she wanted to be an employee. And so they've settled out in God's country, out near my house and Commissioner Martin's house, and so they're going to be residents of Newberry for the rest of their lives, and we're going to get to see her plenty. We're counting on that, but we're sad to see her leave as an everyday employee for the city of Newberry.
Well, Deborah, I echo everything the manager said. Meeting your granddaughters there, I can understand why you're ready. That you got a good reason to spend some time at home and spend some time with them, but we sure are going to miss you. And with that, it's my pleasure to read the following proclamation into the record. Whereas we are here today to express our appreciation to Deborah Starr and honor her for her distinguished career with the City of Newberry and dedicated service to its residents and staff. And whereas Deborah has served the City of Newberry as its Human Resources Director for 14 years, where her institutional and professional knowledge has proved invaluable time and again, Deborah has been an asset to the city. And whereas Deborah's service extends well beyond the City of Newberry, she's been an active participant in the Newberry Relay for Life, Lions Club, United Way, and has spearheaded many community events such as the annual gift collection and food drives. And whereas once retired, Deborah plans to spend more time with her family and grandchildren, volunteering in our community and spending time with friends. And whereas her colleagues know her as a loyal coworker and friend who takes great pride in her work and in this community and who is always ready to lend moral support or a helping hand when needed. And whereas on behalf of the entire City Commission, I want to express our sincere appreciation to Deborah for her loyalty to the City of Newberry and wish her much happiness as she begins this exciting new chapter in her life. Now, therefore, I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, do hereby proclaim Thursday, December 1st, 2022, as Deborah Starr Day in the City of Newberry and urge all residents and employees to join me and the City Commission in congratulating Deborah on an outstanding career with the City of Newberry and wishing her many continued years of happiness and good health. So be it proclaimed this 28th day of November 2022. I hope you got your 15, 20-minute speech all ready. Can we get a picture here?
Sure.
Cheese. We'd love to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you. It's been my honor. It's truly been a pleasure working here. I love the community, and like the city manager said, I fell in love with it so much that I moved out here to be part of it. I want to thank all my co-workers. It's been a sweet ride. I appreciate each and every one of them. And it's not goodbye. Like I said, I want to still volunteer within the city and do my share as a citizen. So thank you very much. And I want to thank my brothers and sisters and my family and my husband for all of their support.
Well, Ms. Deborah, you got to be careful offering to volunteer now, because, you know, we'll take you up on that offer to volunteer at Newberry. And we still have a few minutes on this segment, so if you want to invite your family and grandkids up for a picture with the proclamation, we take a minute to do that. And then as a gift to the grandchildren, if they do not want to stay for the rest of the meeting, we would certainly understand if they want to exit after those pictures. We would not take offense. We'll take a 2-minute recess while those pictures are happening. Call the meeting back to order. Our next item on the presentation is our opportunity to be introduced to our brand-new Children's Trust Director, Ms. Marcia Kiner. We appreciate you coming here and introducing yourself to us. And
Yes, sir.
Ms. Kiner spent a little time with us this afternoon. We walked around Newberry a little bit. We talked a little bit about what's going on in the Children's Trust, and we shared with her what's going on with Newberry. And I appreciate you staying and introducing yourself to the commission and the community watching.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, everybody. I am uncomfortable with my back being to the room, but I guess that's the way.
They're watching you right there on that
Okay.
camera. Yeah.
That's the way we do this. I am Marcia Kiner. I am the new executive director for the Children's Trust of Alachua County. I am actually an Alachua County product. Not born in Gainesville, but raised in Gainesville since age 3. Although I did not attend school here in the lovely city of Newberry, I did attend, kindergarten through 2nd grade at Alachua Elementary, and then 3rd through 12th in Gainesville, go Buchholz Bobcats, and then I'm also a graduate of the University of Florida. So this is home. Left after graduating from UF. With a degree in journalism, went out into the big bad world to be a journalist for a little while, found that it wasn't really to my liking, and found my way into education. My parents were educators here in the county. That's what brought us to Alachua County. And then for the last 16 years, I've been working for an organization affiliated with all of the state and community colleges. I was the CEO the last 2.5 years of the Association of Florida Colleges before the opportunity came to bring me back to my hometown. So I am excited to be here. I am certainly excited about the work that we are going to be doing with the Children's Trust. I met the mayor and your city manager at
Alachua County League of Cities.
League of Cities meeting a few weeks ago. I think it was my second week on the job.
Yeah,
exactly. And we talked about me coming over, having the opportunity to address you, meet you. Certainly, we're going to be working together, partnering with some of the other cities on the opioid issue. So I'm looking forward to working with you all on that. But certainly excited about the work of the trust. I want to say thank you to this community for voting for the trust, for trusting us to work on your behalf to make a difference in the lives of our children. Part of our goal and our mission is to ensure that all children thrive, right? All children. That means the children of the city of Gainesville, the children of the city of Newberry, and so on and so on. And so I am here just to say hello, to introduce myself, and to commit to you that is what we are going to do with the trust. I tell everybody, although I am not a board member, so I don't get a vote, I do get to make recommendations. And so the trust is in the process of listening to the community. We kicked off a listening tour, which is going to help us form our strategic plan. That began in September. Marcia, since October 3rd, has been on her own listening tour, meeting with folks like you throughout the county, wanting to hear from you. There are surveys. We've been doing interviews. We've had focus groups. I believe we've had a focus group here, and then, if I'm not mistaken, even on the weekend, we were here for an event in the community, and we were able to get some feedback from this community. So we have a lot of work to do, but we are excited about the work because we know it's going to inform the decisions that we're going to make that will fund programs to help our children. So having said that, Mayor Marlowe, again, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for dinner, you and your team. I went over to 1906 for dinner tonight. It was great. I look forward to more of those. As I told Mayor Marlowe, I'd like to come out quarterly just to make sure that I stay in touch with you all, I hear from you, and that you see me and understand that we are truly committed to hearing from those of you here in Newberry.
Well, we appreciate that so much, and I know you know this, but just for the folks in the audience, folks watching, we appreciate the trust and what you've done to help a local organization called My Time that does tutoring in the community, and we look forward to more of those kinds of partnerships with you in the future. And of course, I'd like you to, our chair of the opioid task force back there, Ms. Joy Glanzer, and maybe she can follow you out and then just introduce herself to you. She's been instrumental in that. And we look forward to that work and all the other projects that we're going to work on in the future. So
Yes,
thank
sir.
you so much
And
for
then you
taking the
just
time.
reminded me, I got some good news this afternoon from someone here in the room that the city hired one of our teen workers
Yes.
from this summer from a program called Teen Work. So but that was great news. I told
We love that program.
Mr. Lowry that he made my day. So again, thank you all for your time. Again, thank you for believing in the Children's Trust, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from the commission?
Yes.
She's been out here in Newberry for a while, so yeah, you can have an extra parting gift and not stay till the end of the meeting too. All right? To make sure.
Yes, sir.
Marcia won't say it, but what a great surprise, class of '87, Michelle Reber, her dad, Dean Kiner, we still talk about your father.
Wow.
One of the best teams and coaches that Buchholz ever had.
There we go.
You see the discipline and a lot of the issues going on in the schools, all the Buchholz people said, if Dean Kiner was there, that wouldn't be happening. We wish we had that in every single school in the county. And again, great family, good to see you. What a great surprise to come here.
It's what every teacher dreams of is a testimony like that years later, right?
Still legendary,
Yeah.
Buchholz.
You know, the great thing when I say coming home matters, I don't care where I go. Somebody tells me something like that, how he made a difference in their lives, and it reconnects me to my purpose, and I'm so happy to be back home.
I think your classmates, Dean Kiner was not above giving them push brooms, sweeping the entire Buchholz parking lot, preschool suspension.
Yes.
Cleaning all the windows. He was legendary.
Yeah, that is so true.
Well, thank you again. Yeah. Thank you again. We appreciate you coming out so
Thank
much,
you.
and we look forward to seeing you soon in the
Yes, sir.
future.
Thank
All right. Have a great night. And don't forget, Joy, if you'll pop up and just introduce yourself, share the contact information, all that stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, your commission likes to hear from the public early and often in these meetings, so we set aside a section for public announcements. These are the non-controversial. If you got a garage sale, something going on, you want to let us know, you come on. It doesn't have to be on the agenda. If you want to talk to the commission about something that's a little more in-depth, we have another section at the end of the meeting for public comments then. Anybody like to come and talk to the commission now? Ms. Doge, you coming up here or you going out there? Just checking. All right. Well, yes, sir. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Dallas Lee, Public. During this year's budget, the commission very thankfully budgeted for an Assistant Director of Finance and Administration. So I'd like to introduce the commission to Amanda Hagan.
All right.
Stay in the back there. She's our new
Hey, you
assistant.
gotta come down now. Why don't you
I did
stand
warn
up?
her. Amanda comes to us with over 15 years of governmental accounting experience. She did a brief stint as an auditor. She then worked for the Alachua County Clerk of the Courts, and most recently, she served as the Assistant Finance Director for the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. She's a CPA and a Certified Government Finance Officer, and we are extremely excited to have Amanda on staff, and she's already making big impacts and making my life easier and making Newberry better. So welcome, Amanda.
Well, introduce yourself. Yes.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm from the city of Trenton, so I graduated from Trenton High School, so I'm a
All right.
local. Excited to serve our community and excited to make a difference. So thank you for the opportunity.
Well, we love to have local folks, run this area. So appreciate it. Thanks for already making an impact and having such a lengthy resume. That's awesome.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome to Newberry.
Thank you.
Any other public announcements? Any other public announcements? Anybody want to tell us about My Time, concerned citizens, anything? No? All right, just checking. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published? I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, second from Commissioner Clark. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously. That moves us to Our fiscal year 21-22 final budget amendment. This is resolution 2022-78, which, Mr. Scott, will you read that into the record as Dallas makes his way down?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is resolution number 2022-78, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, adopting final amendments to the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget, providing for severability, conflicts, and effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass resolution number 2022-78 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, as you're aware, at the end of every fiscal year, your Finance Department does a review of all the actual receipts and expenditures from the prior year, and if needed, an adjustment is made. The state law allows you to make a final budget adjustment up to 60 days after the close of the fiscal year, which is why we're coming to you at the end of November. I have nothing major to report to you in this budget amendment. A lot of the budget amendment is ratifying adjustments the city manager made underneath his budget authority. We are increasing your revenues by $50,000 and increasing your expenditures by a little over $5,000. Overall, the city did come in under budget with its adopted budget. We came in about 7% under the adopted budget last year. So a lot of these adjustments are just moving money between the departments. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
Maybe a statement. It looks like we're in good financial stability moving forward, Dallas, and I mean, what a great job.
I agree, the commission's done a very good job.
Thank you.
I mean, I think that's worth, putting a pin into. These days, you never hear about governments coming in under budget. There seems to be if it's in the budget, we're gonna spend it mentality. And I applaud our staff for having the money, but recognizing that we can still do better even when the commission's budgeted the money, and then allowing us the freedom to move that money forward to help out the next year. So, great job. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Clark to approve the resolution, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments, questions from the board on the motion on the floor? Does the public have any comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's going to take us to item 8, which is the 337 water main project funding. This is resolution 2022-77. Mr. Walker, would you please read that into the record?
Yes, sir. This is a resolution authorizing the issuance of the City of Newberry, Florida, of not to exceed $915,000 in aggregate principal amount of water and sewer revenue bonds, Series 2022, to finance the cost of the acquisition, construction, and equipping of the improvements to the city's water and sewer system, pledging the net revenues from said system to secure payment of the principal of and interest on said bonds, providing for the rights of the holders of said bonds, providing an effective date for this resolution. The appropriate motion is passed resolution number 2022-77 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Dallas?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As the commission will remember, during your budget process for the current year's budget, the commission authorized staff to proceed with the County Road 337 water main expansion and improvement. This expansion is required by a contract the city has signed with a developer. The benefits of this project include increased fire flow for the western portion of the city, as well as serving potential new development. This extension was identified in our 2009 water model to increase the capacity of the water system. City's recommending that we issue debt to fund this, with that debt being repaid for by your development fees of those customers connecting to the system. So the city, along with our financial advisor, PFM, and our bond counsel from Neighbors, Giblin, and Nickerson, worked to develop an RFP and put it out to bid. We put that back out in September. We received 6 bids with interest rates ranging from 4.22% to a little over 5%. And we asked for multiple term rates between 10 and 15 years. Like I said, we received 6 different bids. After reviewing all the options, we decided that Truist Bank offered the most competitive option for the city of Newberry with a 10-year term at 4.23% interest. Annual debt service on that is about $116,000, varying a little bit each year. You can see the principal or the debt service amortization chart on the side there. Again, these debt service payments are going to be paid with development fees that are collected from new houses connected to that system. And we have pledged your water and wastewater revenue against this, secondary to your SRF loans. There's no prepayment penalty. That was one of the terms we made sure we put into our RFPs, that if the commission did decide to pay this off early, there would be no penalty. This does include closing costs of about 4%. And if the commission approves it, we are ready to go to bid next week for this project.
Okay. Do we have any questions for staff? Infrastructure. Long time coming. Agreed? Okay. If there are no questions, do I hear a motion? I got a motion for approval from Commissioner Clark, second from Commissioner Coleman. Comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? Hearing none, public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to sign some documents for this bond. It's going to take just a few minutes, and we have some people who drove all the way from Tallahassee just to carry these documents back to Tallahassee. So we're going to take a 5-minute recess so we can get those taken care of and get them back on the road so they're not out to the wee hours of the morning, because we're about to enter quasi judicial, and that's going to take a little bit. So wonderful time to go out, use the restroom, pick up a flyer. It talks about all the holiday events coming up this weekend. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Everybody's patience. Takes a while. They'll be back in any second now. We will re-adjourn.
Do you know if you flatline, those paddles won't bring you back? We just found that out. It won't bring you back.
What brings you back?
Well, good Lord, mate, the battle line. Go ahead, man.
You're already dead.
Isn't that terrible? I just always thought, I mean, who watched Emergency? I mean, the thing was going like that. There you go.
The original.
That was way back. Yeah.
So we get our course, we get nursing.
Nursing education. Nursing.
Once again, thank you guys for your patience, small kindness to get somebody home for the holidays back on the road. We're going to get started on item 9, which is a request by EDA Consultants, Inc. to change the future land use map classification on 123.9 acres from county rural agriculture to city mining. This is the second reading. This is a quasi judicial. This means that the commission will stop being a legislative body and become a judicial board, which means that we have to follow certain rules and adhere to a different standard of decision-making. The primary rule we must follow concerns testimony, and the substantial and competent evidence standard must be met when the judicial board makes a decision. This standard states the following, and I quote, "All public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence, and giving opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record." Now I'm going to ask the city attorney to read the ordinance into the record, if you would, sir.
Mr. Mayor, this is ordinance number 2022-39, CPA 22-08, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended, relating to an amendment to the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan under the expedited amendment procedures established in sections 163.3184, subparagraph 2 and 3 of the Florida statutes, and in conformance with sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 of the Florida statutes, providing for a change in the future land use classification from rural agricultural to mining on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, tax parcel numbers 01855-000-000, 01855-002-000, 01856-000-000, and 01862-000-000, consisting of approximately 124 acres, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2022-39 upon its second reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. And I'm going to ask the clerk if you would swear in the applicant, staff, and anybody who would like to participate in this quasi-judicial. If you think you're going to speak, please rise and we'll get you sworn in now.
Please raise your right hand and starting on my left, state your name for the record.
John Paul Perez.
Brian Thomas.
Paul Stokey. Clay Swigert.
Catherine Richard. Do you hereby swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Yes.
You have a duty sworn.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, Commission, we need to disclose any ex parte communication we've had. Any ex parte communications are conversations or transmissions of information that may have bearing or influence on any voting member's decision. Commissioner Maison?
Nope.
Commissioner Martin?
No, sir.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
No.
Commissioner Clark?
No.
Commissioner Coleman? Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate I started in a different direction, so I had to think of people's names as I went, you know. I'm going to read through the presentation order. As long as nobody new enters, I'm not going to read through this again, but I have to do it the first time. First, we're going to hear from the staff with the overview. Then we'll hear from the applicant with their presentation with no time limit. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim third-party intervener status on any of the quasi-judicial tonight, so that's going to move us to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item will have 3 minutes to do so. After that, we'll hear cross-examinations from the applicant and the staff. Then members of the decision-making body through the chair can ask questions of the applicant or the staff. Final arguments will be heard by the applicant and the staff related solely to the evidence and testimony presented at the hearing and introduced in the record. Then the city attorney will advise decision-making bodies applicable law and factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. Then we'll deliberate, and after deliberations, a motion will be taken to approve conditions, continue, or deny. That's the order we're going to follow for all the quasi-judicials tonight. John Paul, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John Paul Perez, City of Newberry Planning and Economic Development Department. As stated by the mayor and the city attorney, the request before the commission tonight is a request to change the future land use of a subject property located in the northeast quadrant of the city, adjacent to some existing and former mining sites. On the screen before you right now is the subject property, where you can see an aerial representation of some of the adjacent uses. This is the second reading, so this is not a new introduction, but a reintroduction. The current use is county rural agriculture. This property was annexed into the city in 2020, and the proposed future land use will be mining, which is required by the comprehensive plan for proposed mining uses. So again, the property was annexed June 8th, 2020. Had their first hearing September 6th with Planning and Zoning Board. First reading with the City Commission on September 26th, transmitted to FD to the state shortly after that, and the state responded pretty promptly with no objection. There are some companion items that will go with this that will follow this presentation. They are the rezoning and the special use permit required by our code for mining uses are special use permits, which can be revocable by the commission. And we will also route this one more time to the state just to let them know that the city has adopted the future land use amendment. That completes my presentation for the future land use map amendment. We did find this consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development regulations, and we'll go into a little bit more detail with the other applications as far as conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, John Paul. I heard a recommendation there. Does that mean the applicant doesn't have a presentation?
We recommend to approve,
No,
but
about
the
presentation.
the applicant does have
You do have a presentation,
yeah.
but you don't have, you did your whole presentation? Okay.
Good evening.
How's it going, sir?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good.
I'm Clay Swager with EDA Consultants. Good evening. I do have a brief presentation for you. I'll try to keep it brief and then answer any questions you have, since I know the board has been given this presentation before. There are 3 applications before you tonight. The item on the agenda right now is the land use map change. I'm not sure if staff could pull up my PowerPoint. If not, that is okay too. Thank you. So as staff indicated, this is a land use change request. It's one of 3 applications for you tonight. It's item number 1, request to go from county rural ag to city mining. This is a vicinity map just to show you the area of the 124 acres that's in question tonight. It's predominantly a mining area in the northeast part of town. This is a map showing the city limits of Newberry currently in gray. This land has been recently annexed into the city and therefore needs a city land use designation. And due to the fact that there is existing mining on the property and some areas that were historically mined and the owner would like to continue mining, we are requesting the mining designation. These are the parcels in question. There are 5 tax parcels. The area in yellow shows areas that are existing under existing DEP mining permits today. You can see a good portion of our property is in that DEP mining area, and the remainder has been mined in the past. And so these are a couple interesting aerials that I found that show almost 100 years, if not 100 years, of mining in this area, which is definitely a large part of the history of our community here. And this just shows you the predominant nature of the mining in this immediate area. Basically, every property surrounding is either currently mined or is a former mining site, or it's a use of the reclaimed land, like the proposed zipline facility just to the east, which we've been working with them in a collaborative manner to make sure that they've got access to County Road 235 as they need. And this is the proposed land use map. There are hundreds of acres in mining currently on the other side of 235. Those are areas that are in the city limits of Newberry. I'll get to those at the next presentation, but as your staff indicated, the application is consistent with your code and comprehensive plan. It's very compatible with the area, that there won't be any undue impacts on public facilities. We're not really needing to use public facilities like water or sewer, for example, and the traffic should be minimal. This is really just allowing for an extension of the time that mining can happen out there, because really they work in one specific area and move around, so there will not be any noticeable increase in traffic. We want to use the same access out to County Road 235, so it should be pretty simple and straightforward as that goes. And we're working with Mr. Spain on the zip line to be a good neighbor. I can get into that a little bit more in the special use permit application that'll come to you shortly. And your staff recommends approval. The state and the county did not have any objections or comments on the application, and Planning and Zoning Board and this board did consider once before. So with that, I'll conclude and will be answer any questions you have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is any member of the public here to speak to this agenda item? If you are, you have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none, that's going to take us to cross-examinations. Clay, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine from John Paul? John Paul, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine from Clay? All right, then that will take us down to the board. Do you have any questions of staff or the applicant? Second reading, we're taking a mind back to a mind. Commissioner Farnsworth, are you reaching? Go ahead.
Hopefully I'm in the right area. The suggested conditions of approval on page 33, is that what we're talking about right now?
I don't have that packet open. Are you all on his page? I got 5 packets open here, but not that one. What's the condition you're looking at?
There's several conditions, like maintain a landscape buffer, monitor noise and vibration complaints, provide and coordinate a fire service emergency plan for the fire department.
Those are all connected, Mr. Mayor, sorry, with the special use permit, which will follow the rezoning. The rezoning is the next, and then the special use. So yes, there are several conditions there.
I'm getting ahead. I just
Yeah.
going through everything here, so I just came across that, so that's gonna be on the next item.
After the next.
2 more items now.
Okay.
You're way
Thank you.
ahead.
You know, I'm always been ahead of most people.
Yeah. Any other questions from the board? Okay, Clay, you want to make a final argument?
No, sir.
John Paul, you want to make a final argument? Okay, well, Mr. Attorney, would you please advise decision-making bodies applicable on factual findings?
On all matters tonight, it will be the substantial and competent evidence.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any deliberations? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion for approval from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Maison. That was right. Second over here. Any comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen, we're still in quasi judicial. No one new has entered the room, correct? So we're going to move right on without having to read through all of that. I will ask for the attorney to please read into the record the on second reading ordinance 2022-40/LDR 22-15.
Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, relating to the rezoning of approximately 124 contiguous acres, more or less, pursuant to an application by the property owner of said acreage, amending the official zoning atlas of the city of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from County Ag Zoning District to the City Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the city of Newberry, Florida. Tax parcels numbers are 01855-000-000, 01855-001-000, 01855-002-000, 01856-000-000, and finally 01862-000-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2022-40 upon its second reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone new who needs to be sworn in? Everybody is sworn in for the last one. Still the same people for this one. Okay, then let's do it. Anybody have ex parte? Just reach for the mic.
No.
Okay, let the record show no one has any. John Paul, overview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, John Paul Perez with Planning and Economic Development. I'll try to be brief. This is the rezoning for the property that we just heard. 124 acres located in the northeast quadrant of the city of Newberry. Here's an aerial showing the property and some of the adjacent uses. The current zoning is county agricultural. Because the property was recently annexed, we need to adjust that to appropriate city zoning for a mining use, which is agriculture. On the site, there are gopher tortoise nests that were located and discovered in the environmental report. And for that, we're adding one condition that they relocate the gopher tortoise nests to a site that's suitable for them to thrive. They've reviewed this condition and accepted it. With that, staff finds the request consistent with the land development regulations and the comprehensive plan, and we recommend approval with the suggested condition from staff. The applicant, that completes my presentation. The applicant doesn't have another presentation, but they're available for questions should you need them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's going to take us to public comment. Anybody from the public wishing to speak to this agenda item? You have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none. Clay, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine?
No, sir.
John Paul, cross-examine? Okay, let's go down to member decision making body. You got any questions? No questions here.
You see there's Hoover Ham on property, we love that.
Do we have any final arguments? Final arguments? All right, we've already been advised by our lawyer, so we'll have deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Mazon, second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions on the motion floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We're still in quasi judicial. This is a public hearing for a special use permit for proposed mining activities. Mr. Attorney, would you please read Resolution 2022-66/SUP 22-01 into the record?
Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, granting a special use permit to allow the expansion of a mining use within the mining future land use category and agricultural A zoning district on 124 contiguous acres, more or less, pursuant to an application by the property owner of said acreage on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Tax parcel numbers are 01855-000-000, 01855-001-000, 01855-002-000, 01856-000-000, and 01862-000-000. Providing severability, providing for a repealer, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass resolution number 2022-66 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Everybody's been sworn in. Any ex parte here, just reach for the mic. Let the record show there is none. Staff overview, go ahead, John Paul.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Again, John Paul Perez, Planning and Economic Development. This request is for the special use permit. This has not been seen by the City Commission yet. This only requires one hearing by City Commission. This has been previously heard by the Planning and Zoning Board, in which their recommendation was to approve with staff's conditions. Again, the subject property, northeast quadrant of the city. Again, same aerial that was previously shown, showing the subject property, some of the on-site uses, which is some current mining that was part of a previous FDE permit, as well as some retired mining sites that they're looking to go back and re-explore for additional material, and some of the active mining and cement uses in the area. So now that we've adopted the mining future land use and the agricultural zoning, which are now appropriate for this use to exist, the applicant is putting forward their request for a special use permit. Special use permits are for more intense uses that require special consideration for like the impacts of the use on the site and adjacent sites, resources, et cetera. In the case for mining, we also look at restoration of the site. For some of the conditions that staff has added to this, and this speaks to Commissioner Farnsworth's questions, we've added some conditions for just preservation of the site and minimizing the impact on adjacent neighbors. So there is a requirement to maintain a landscape buffer to monitor noise and vibration complaints. This is one condition that was placed on Argos when they came in for their cement factory. A lot of these are kind of recycling some of those conditions that seem to have worked well for Argos, and so we're applying them here as well. Provide and coordinate a fire service and emergency plan with the fire department. Notify the city of other agency violations. Remediate driveway aprons to residential properties within the County Road 235 right away. So there's not just a driveway that leads to nowhere. relocate resident gopher tortoises, which was also included with the rezoning, and reserve the right to request a traffic study on impacts on County Road 235. Based on the study that was provided, there's going to be not an increase in the actual mining activity. They're just going to be migrating the current mining use. Once it's exhausted its current site, they'll move that to or previously mined area to extract those materials. And so there's an anticipation that there won't be, but in case there is, we have reserved the right to request an impact study. And just reciting some of the requirements of special use permits from the code within the ordinance. So that was something that was done for Argos, just repeating that here. All these conditions have been incorporated into the resolution. Again, this was heard on October 3rd by the Planning and Zoning Board with a recommendation for approval. Staff finds the request consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development regulations, and our recommendation is to approve the ordinance. Staff, that completes my presentation. The agent does not have a presentation. However, he's available for questions should you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's going to take us right to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item will have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none, that will move us right to cross-examinations. Do you hear anything, Clay, you want to cross-examine? John Paul? All right. Member decision-making body, do you have any questions? Commissioner Farnsworth.
Explain to me the monitor noise and vibration complaints. What exactly does that entail?
Generally, that'll be a report that monitors the days and times of blasting, the receipt of calls complaining about blasting, and just matching those up to make sure that the complaints are actually complaints for blasting that occurred during the time that they're complaining. And if there is an increase of, matching complaints and blasting, at that time, the applicant or the owner could work with staff to mitigate some of those by maybe adjusting those based on, the days of the week or the times of the day that those blastings are occurring to mitigate the amount of complaints being received.
So if someone calls me complaining about the blasting, do I just forward that to who?
You could send it to planning staff and we'll get it to, we'll communicate with the owner.
And notify city of other agency violations. What's other agencies?
Florida Department of Environmental Protection is the agency that issues their permit for mining. And I don't know, Arthur, Clay, if you can correct me, I don't think there are any other permits that you'd be seeking for the mining. So, yeah.
So if those agencies have a complaint, they will notify the city of Newberry?
Correct.
Okay. Correct. All right, that's all I need. Thank you.
Commissioner Martin? And then Commissioner Coleman.
I know with the area over northeast of Newberry Oaks, it was always told, or I was always told that it was actually the state fire marshal or somebody that monitors some of those complaints with the vibrations and all that stuff. Is that still the case as well?
That's a great question. I don't have an answer for that. Yeah,
I see 2 head nods.
it is, yeah.
Okay.
The expert on mining says yes.
Talk about mining a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, number 2, 3, 4, and 5, are those occupied? Number 2, 3, and 4.
I'll defer to Clay Swieger, the agent for the owner, or Mr. Stowe.
I'm Paul Stokey. I'm with Limestone Products in Cates and Broome, which owns the property. I don't know the exact numbers. 2 of those houses are currently occupied. 1 is vacant. Okay, so 2 and 3 are currently occupied. They are under lease, and we have an agreement and understanding that we will provide them ample notice before we start mining in that area for them to relocate.
Okay.
That's good.
Mine's a statement. My mother-in-law lives near the mine, so for Commissioner Farnsworth, they actually put in a monitoring system. They have one at her property because it's really at the berm of the mine, and they can tell periodically. They get the readings and findings off that,
and they can tell right there. So it ain't just phone calls. They do their own in-house monitoring for the residents in that area too.
Correct, that's right. In this area, there's really no residential, so I don't think there's any need for that. We're further away from most of the residential complaints.
Okay.
Yeah, I think at one time we had Argos or whatever it was at the time doing monitoring of the air.
They still do
quality
it.
and
They
and
still do it.
They were reported to us on a regular basis. They still doing that?
Yeah. No, and I don't want to get off topic here, but the level of reporting and recording that the mines have to do, we've had meetings with them and they can pull out the books and say, we blasted on this date at this time, and, you can track the whole thing, so. Let's see, that was questions. We did final arguments. Final arguments now. We've already been advised applicable law. I'll have deliberations. If there are no more deliberations, I'll have a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and I believe that takes us out of quasi judicial. So we're moving on to item 12, is report of the city's comprehensive plan amendment needs. And I believe Mr. Thomas, have a good night, y'all. Mr. Thomas, you're gonna lead us through this. While you're doing that, Scott, would you please read on second hearing ordinance 2022-38/CPA 22-11 in the record?
Yes, sir. This is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended related to the future land use element, specific location sub-element of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan under the expedited amendment procedures established in sections 163.3184, subparagraphs 2 and 3 of the Florida statutes, and in conformance with sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 of the Florida statutes, amending the visioning sub-element and deleting it in its entirety, the specific locations sub-element of the future land use element pertaining to certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2022-38 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as stated, this is ordinance 2022-38, which will amend the city's comprehensive plan. This is actually the first phase of potentially up to 3 phases of amendments to the comprehensive plan. This is kind of the quick and easy one to get us back into compliance with the state DEO. Every 7 years, the city is required to report back to the state on their what's called the evaluation and appraisal report. And its primary purpose is to make sure that the local comp plans are compliant with any new state laws that have been implemented since the last EAR report was completed, as well as if there are any changes in the community that need to be reflected in the comprehensive plan. It gives the opportunity to do that as well. And so this, like I said, represents first phase in at least 2 and possibly 3 phases of amendments that will be coming in the next few months. So future phases, these are the additional phases we'll be working on coming after this. This basically takes, as we talked about before, a specific location sub-element that was a requirement of the old Department of Community Affairs, which no longer exists, and requirements that had been implemented by DCA that no longer are applicable. Takes that out of our comp plan, and it also takes the visioning work that the commission did previous in last fiscal year and implements that into the future land use element as well, so that the future land use element reflects those visions, community vision work that was done by the commission. And like I said, removes the specific location sub-element. So just a reminder, these are the different parts that were in this specific location sub-element. several of which are already fully developed. So even if this was still applicable, it wouldn't really make any difference now because they're already fully developed. The two that I'll show you that are in green, CPA 06-04, has not developed. So that's one that's still a vacant land parcel, but would still be governed by the existing land use and zoning that's on the property, which is agricultural. And then the same here, Newberry Ridge potential project, it would also be governed by the development order and agreement that was passed on that several years ago. So it's not that we're removing any restrictions or limits on density, it's just that we're removing this specific sub-element out of the comprehensive plan. It actually gives the commission more flexibility to make changes to those intensities and densities without having to go back to the state for approval. So on September 5th, Planning and Zoning Board voted to recommend approval to the City Commission. On September 12th, the City Commission voted on first reading to approve the ordinance and send it to the state for their review. The review period ended on the 14th of November, and we were provided with notification from the state that there were no concerns or suggestions to address, and therefore staff's recommendation is to enact ordinance 2022-38, where 13 came from, on second reading.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions? Second reading, we went through this one time before. Do you think of anything in the interim? No questions? If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Clark,
Second.
second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to our agenda items. 13, Southwest 15th Avenue Road Reconstruction Project Update. Very excited about this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike New, and I'll be presenting this item. You almost confused me. I was thinking, did I get that right? I messed up already on my name. Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to just to introduce Clay Swager with EDA and Claudia Vega with EDA. They are consultants that we have contracted with to help us with this project. And actually, when we get into technical stuff in the presentation, Clay and Claudia will be leading the presentation. First, I'd like to just point out one thing that's different on your staff reports. We've added a section to all of our staff reports that is strategic goal and objective. It is to help the public and the commission and staff associate how every agenda item that's before the commission and being considered, how it ties back to our strategic plan. And so that was a recommendation from staff, and I thought it was a great way for us to always have our vision in front of us and our strategic plan in front of us and make sure that the work that we're presenting, that we're considering, we're spending our time and effort on, is in keeping with the commission's vision. So, Mr. Mayor, moving on, recommended action is to receive a presentation and to provide feedback, and also to authorize staff to move forward with design. But I will tell you, we're going to be back with a contract. Maybe it will be under consent, but we didn't have a proposal for the design work prior to tonight's meeting. So you will see what that scope and the cost for the design services for Southwest 15th looks like. And hopefully, if you authorize us to move forward, you'll see it in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're trying to get this project moving. So in fiscal year 2021-22, which was the fiscal year we just completed, the City Commission identified 2 very important roadway projects that were near and dear to them. One was the construction of Seaboard Coastline Drive, and the other one was the reconstruction of Southwest 15th Avenue. Tonight, we're going to talk about the Southwest 15th Avenue reconstruction project. So last fiscal year, we had no funding for any real level of effort, but about midway through the year, we found a little bit of money to well, let's put together some conceptual drawings based on the feedback we had received from the City Commission, and get that together for the Commission's consideration as we kick off the design. And that probably will speed up the design process because the commission will have some very good visuals on what we think we heard them say. And the designer will get out the gate with very strong feedback from the commission on where they want to take the project. So that's kind of where we are tonight. We've developed some renderings, some schematics of what we think we heard the commission say. I'd have to tell you that, a lot of these kinds of projects, like City Hall, we give you 3 to 5 different variations, and there's a lot to choose from. Southwest 15th Avenue is a road with very limited options. So really, we're showing you this is what we think we heard, what we think you were asking for. Do you like it, yes or no, or do you prefer us to tweak it? I'd say the main things that we've identified on the commission's wish list were sidewalks on both sides of the roadway. There's schools all around the street, and knowing that walkability, since school buses don't transport children within 2 miles of the school, we've all learned that rule pretty well in the last few years. We know that having good pedestrian corridors to our schools is very important. We also know there's a shortage of parking. Apparently, the schools don't get the same memos as the required parking as the rest of us do. So there's a shortage of parking near any school that I've ever been around. So we have available right-of-way, and we have enough concern for our schools that we'd heard the commission say we'd like to get as much parking as we can in public right-of-ways. So we're planning for that. Wider lanes for transportation, pedestrian crosswalks, so we get school children's safety in mind, improved street lighting because kids start school nice and early, and turning lanes, which we think is very significant because it'll help keep traffic moving and not stop 100 cars up because one person decided they needed to turn left and just can't make the turning movement. So those were the big things that we heard on the commission's wish list about a year ago when we started developing some renderings at the beginning of the summer. We contracted with the EDA, and they came up with some renderings, some design concepts with that in mind. And I'm going to invite Clay up to share a presentation. Again, we solicit your feedback, and if you're happy with where things are, then we'll start working on getting a proposal and trying to get into the design phase of this project. Our thought is that we could finish the design phase of the project this year, and then be ready to move into construction next fiscal year. If the commission remembers, we have a workshop next week on impact fees, and where we'd like to set those fees and how they work. And impact fees would be a candidate funding source for a project of this nature. Another candidate funding source is the transportation half or the infrastructure half of the 1-cent sales tax initiative that was approved by the voters of Alachua County just a few weeks ago. So we have other options at our disposal, but as much as 2 months ago, we were thinking yes or no about impact fees and maybe not about the sales tax referendum. Both of those are one has been approved and one of it is a lot closer. Again, we'll have a workshop on it and get direction from the city commission next week, and maybe if the commission desires, we'll be ready to adopt impact fees moving into early 2023. So Clay, if you would, share a presentation with the City Commission.
Good evening again. I'm Clay Swager with EDA Consultants. It's very nice to be working with the city. Sometimes we present things to the city, sometimes we're working for the city. So we really appreciate the relationship and the opportunity to put together this information for you, and hopefully it's helpful for you all to make some decisions on how you want to proceed with one of your key corridors, I would define it as. So as Mike indicated, this presentation is a set of schematic drawings just to present to you, to get some feedback, and then hopefully you can provide some direction to your city staff. This is the This shows the limits of the road improvements on Southwest 15th Avenue. It's about 6/10 of a mile. It goes from State Road 45 over to Southwest 260th Street. There's really about 4 different segments of street design that we'll go through, just based on the varying conditions. You've got a railroad crossing, you've got a state road connection, you've got schools, you've got a meandering street in there now, and residential properties or driveways. So there are a lot of conditions to look at in putting this together and working with city staff. I think Mike walked through most of this. This is from your agenda. But the project details indicated a priority placed on getting sidewalks on both sides of the street, getting some on-street parking near the schools on the west side of this project, widening the lanes, having a center lane for some turning, so with some of the school queuing issues and the backups when schools are getting in and out, to get traffic flowing east and west in an easier way. The good news is you've got a little more right-of-way than normal. It's about 80 foot of right-of-way. A lot of local streets are about 50 feet, and so it's really tight. And so we have a little bit of room to work in trying to accomplish all of those goals. This is extremely tiny. I know you do have a hard copy of this, but this is really sort of a color rendering of what ultimately the street redesign could look like. And I'll go through more detailed pictures in just a minute. But just to give you a quick orientation, there were some recent FDOT improvements to the intersection of 15th Avenue and State Road 45. There's a couple pictures there. They have a southbound right turn lane now going into 15th Avenue, so the conditions are improved. Our renderings do show the possibility of a roundabout there in the future. That would, of course, need to be coordinated with FDOT as it is their right-of-way, but that was something that staff brought to us as something that might be palatable for the city. But those are the conditions today at 15th Avenue as of about 4 hours ago when I took those pictures. Going east to west, this is the top picture is a view from State Road 45 looking westward. You do see one sidewalk on the south side, and you see Oakview Village on the right side with no sidewalk connections. You do see some sort of pedestrian crossing there for the railroad tracks on the south side. And then moving a little bit further west at 252nd Street, which I believe is the cottages of Countryway on the left side. Again, you do see sidewalk on one side of the street, sort of a makeshift sidewalk or a little bit of pavement on the right side that just goes to that first house where the car is. But really, you just have got a pretty narrow street and a sidewalk on one side. And this is moving a little bit further west. And it's when we get to Newberry Elementary on 255th Street, where they do have sidewalks on both sides of the street, but that's where you start to get some of the queuing issues, trying to get in and out of the school. And so we'll show you what we have in the layout here in just a moment. Just a little bit further west, that's the exit out of the elementary school, and then you can see the car stacking, waiting to get into the pickup or drop-off lane there just a little bit further down at the elementary school. And then the bottom picture is at 258th Street and 15th Avenue, where the road starts to make a jog. And there's really not that's basically where the pedestrian facility's in. You can see a little sidewalk there in the right corner. But moving forward past 258th Street, moving west, it's just a real basic street, very narrow street. There's a lot of from what we're told and understand, there's a lot of informal parking going on there in the grass. It's not permitted or designed, and there appears to be a pretty good need for more parking to accommodate both schools. And so there's a couple more pictures. You can see the high school to the right, the fields, and then the cemetery there to the left. And then the bottom picture is where everything terminates at 260th Street. So that gives you sort of the orientation of what you see today. Now we're going back to State Road 45, and this is the first cross section really is just between State Road 45 and the railroad tracks, which there's not much to do there, but we do add an additional sidewalk on the north side connecting to Oakview Village. and then you go from the railroad tracks on the right side, moving westward. And this section has several residential properties or driveways, but essentially what we're doing there is we're adding a central turn lane. Excuse me, got a little frog in my throat. That'd be great. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Thanks. So this section, I appreciate it. This section is pretty uniform in that you've got a lot of residential properties with driveways. We'd be adding sidewalks to both sides of the street, aligning them to where everyone still has room for their driveways on their properties for parking cars. And then there's a central lane, as I mentioned. So that would allow people to turn into their property, not block the traffic going east or west. And that takes us over to 255th Street. Oh, actually, before that, this is the cross section, very basic. But, yes, sir.
On that last picture, did you just say that the turn lane will run the length of the road? The entire length of the road?
That is what is on this schematic
I actually
plan,
think that's
Mr.
what's
Mayor.
needed on that road
Yeah.
because the elementary school, if it was all stacked up, it would go all the way back to the railroad. I just want to make sure I heard that right. Okay.
Yes, sir. No, that is correct. And this cross-section shows essentially 3 12-foot wide lanes, one going east, one going west, and a center turn lane for people to be able to utilize as needed. And that would be a very long run. It would be a lot more pavement than what's there today, but it seems like that may be the need. Because we've got extra right-of-way, you still have a lot of room for a landscaped area. This will have some landscape swales and then the sidewalks right along the property lines. And so this is at 255th Street going to 258th Street, which is essentially north of the elementary school. This is where we have on-street parking proposed with sidewalks on both sides as well. Center turn lane as far as we can go, at least to the entrance of the elementary school. A very long left turn lane in. So all that stacking that you saw in that picture would be accommodated in the left turn lane. And then the school exit, we could have a center turn lane for folks to either go, they can go straight or they can make a left and go north on 255th Street. So this just gives you an idea. There's quite a bit of room for parking to be accommodated. There'd be needing some discussion with the school board, potentially for some drainage area, which is sort of what you see, that large rectangle on the north side. But the fact that it would be beneficial to the schools, I think they would be amenable to that conversation. So, and there's room for it. That area is not particularly utilized for anything that I could determine. And so this is the cross section you'd see north of the elementary school, where you have angle parking on both sides, and you have that center turn lane, and you've got landscape areas as well. And so moving a little bit further west from 258th Street, this would be just south of the field and north of the cemetery. We would suggest that you could put angle parking there along the north side. There's really not enough room without some conflicts, fencing and other things for the cemetery on the south side. But as you can see, you could still get 40 some odd parking spaces there to try to help alleviate some of the concerns with parking. So these were the ideas that we came up with and working with staff just to get your thoughts going on what you may want to see. They're schematic, they certainly can be changed, but we were really trying to do everything that we could to add more turn lanes, help with the congestion, and make it more safe and pedestrian friendly on both sides of the road, and add more parking for the schools and the folks that utilize them.
Clay, are you far enough in this rendering on this section here? Because that around the track, around from 258th to the track and back around, is a very scenic kind of sidewalk area. A lot of big oak trees. Are we having to take any oak trees down around the track in order to get these improvements? Or are we able to work around all those oak trees? As a former track coach, I can tell you how important that shade is down there at the track. You don't have a lot of it, but where you do, that's where everybody clusters.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the sun right behind them. No, this would all be in the right-of-way, and I believe those trees are just north of the right-of-way.
Okay.
So those trees are not impacted. Hard to tell on this aerial because of the shadow and so forth, but I think if you go back, slides. Well, yeah, it doesn't show the trees you're thinking of, but yeah, the parking would be to the left of the fence that's there today.
Does that conclude your?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Commissioner, you have questions?
Yes,
Commissioner Clark?
so on the one drawing where we have a rendering of the tree with the, you have a pedestrian one, the way the road is laid out, is that one there? Is that just we're gonna pick one of those, or is that, the way it lays out, that's the way it will be? Cause it looks like you've given, the car more room from the tree over there. Is there a distance gap here?
So this cross-section is in that approximately 80-foot right-of-way.
Could go,
So there's 3 lanes there, each about 12 foot. So that's 36 feet, so you got about 22 feet on each side. 5 feet of that would be sidewalk, and then you got about 17 feet or so of landscape area on each side.
but it looks, those are actually two different pictures though, right? Your left hand, you would have like in your right-hand picture, your truck is right at the tree line. Your left hand, you're way over. Is that just moving?
Well, this is a view like if you were on the street looking.
And there's nothing to be made from whether the tree is centered between the travel
Okay.
lane and the sidewalk.
Oh, I see.
The
your
gray
point.
box don't mean nothing,
And-
the way it's all centered up.
And one thing I would say that is not being depicted in these renderings, most of the street has open swells today, and for cost reasons, we plan for it to have open swells in the future. So where you see those trees right now are likely to be shallow swells. It will be shallow swells, it just,
Okay.
the trees can coexist. We think that where we've added the parking adjacent to the school, north of the school and south of the track, that some of that will have to be curb and gutter, no open swells, and that's what, in his renderings, he had shown a retention area north on school property.
Right.
That's for the area that we think that will be curb and gutter and underground piping as opposed to open swell. But there's so much grade in there. If you're driving it, you'll see that it's a
Yeah.
pretty steep little road right through there. The chances for open swells in that area just are very remote anyway, and we think an off-site stormwater retention basin is the most cost-effective way to address that segment of road.
Does that include your questions?
That's it.
Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Martin? Commissioner Farnsworth?
Whenever we were first shown or proposed this, it was just to expand 15 all the way out to 260. I don't know how it got to this point, where we're talking about revamping the entire 15th Avenue. And what would be the cost of this? Because I don't think that the cost that was presented before will even come close to covering the cost that's being presented here.
I think, Commissioner Farnsworth, the conversation's always been this segment. The segment that connects to 266 is the segment that the developers are gonna pay for. So we've separated the conversations into two, but we've always talked about resurfacing 15th, widening it, putting the parking, because we've had all the problems with the people backing up in the street, not being able to get into. So there's always been this concept. The connection part is the part that developers, we're gonna tap the developers because they're the ones that are gonna be bringing the use in. So that segment has always been the part that we're not going to pay for. But we were always on the hook for this part. So the cost that we've been quoted, and, you know, with inflation today, I'm not even gonna hold anybody to what the price was a year ago when we started this, was for our part, not for the connector part.
Okay.
And, Mr. Mayor, we haven't necessarily covered it, but I think it's important to know, I don't think that the city of Newberry is ready to financially try to take on the roundabout. I think that our best call into that is to provide a nice rendering, which we already have, and push that over to FDOT and say, if the commission likes it, and say, our commission likes this, and we'd like for y'all to consider it the next time you do an upgrade on State Road 45, and that we begin our design at the FDOT right-of-way so that it could absorb a roundabout emptying into 15th Avenue, but the limit of our work would really stop at the western boundary of the state road right-of-way, and we would ask DOT to pick up the roundabout.
My only comment about that is, you know, we got to wait for FDOT to make a decision about the roundabout. The reason why they have been so staunchly against, and I know that FDOT hates stoplights, but one of the reasons why they have said no to a stoplight there over and over again is because 15th is offset, right? And they said that's too much. So I want us to think about if FDOT is not going to put a stoplight or a roundabout there, now is our opportunity, because correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have enough right-of-way on the north of the segment of 15th, once you get over the railroad tracks, to bring the turn lane in and line it up.
Agree.
So I think that the roundabout is a good idea, but I don't want to wait on FDOT, and I'd like us to be able to at least straighten that road out.
Mr. Mayor, I'm of the impression that what you said is not exclusive to what I suggested. We can line up our function, our portion of 15th Avenue, get it aligned correctly, and DOT can eventually build a roundabout right in the middle.
Perfect. Commissioner Martin, were you reaching for a mic?
Yeah, I've got some concerns about safety in the corridor. Obviously, the ones that exist, we're trying to get rid of. I'm a little concerned that we're creating more because, and here's my thinking. Is it safer to have kids going down both sides of the road that you, as a driver, you're trying to contend with kids on both sides or people on both sides of the roadways? We talk about people backing in and out of their driveways. We want to make sure that we're not creating more hazards by putting trees in the way that obstruct them from being able to see cars coming up and down the roadway. Some of the congestion is good because it slows people down in an area that's heavily pedestrian used. And then the whole idea of just trying to jam more cars down near the school where the kids are concentrated, keeping those kind of things in mind. And then the last one would really just be more of a construction element of timing, of trying to do something particularly around the school during the summertime. And then the future Seaboard connection, which I'm sure you guys have already thought about as well, and how that's going to come together there on 252nd-ish?
Yes, 252.
That's it.
Good point. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mayor, I would just say that with the sidewalks, a lot of them are very close to the street right now, if not immediately adjacent to the street, so there may be some merit to having them further away from the street. And I think the key to safety is going to be really good and safe crossings and crosswalks too. I think those are things that the city will need to look at very closely when the final design comes. And I think the parking down by the schools will create, there'll be a lot of activity, but it will slow traffic down as well, which arguably makes a safer condition.
Commissioner Clark.
Quick observation on this before I know the right-of-way is the right-of-way, but how much of, what are we currently at versus what we're going to because of the housings that are on the road? How much are we gonna take of the yards? Is there gonna be a expansive, you know what I'm talking about, Mike? My question is, what we got right now versus the yards that sit on the north side of 15th going west?
Mr. Mayor, there's no proposal to encroach on any roads. The road we have, as he said, ample right-of-way. Right in the immediately north of Newberry Elementary School, which is, it's part of Newberry High School, where they keep some horses from time to time.
Sure.
We propose a stormwater retention area there. and maybe a park. But it is just that block between 255th and 258th that we think we need additional land. Everything east of 255th and everything
Is about the
west
same?
of 258th, we believe we have sufficient right-of-way, or we've asked the designer to keep it within the existing right-of-way because we don't think the school will give up any of the track. We don't think any of the folks will give up any of the yards, especially when they look out there and see that we have 80-foot worth of right-of-way to begin with.
Well, that's awesome, and just the way that it looks on the map, it looks like we are doing that, and that was the question, so.
We do not anticipate it.
That's awesome.
We do not anticipate.
It's a little bit of an optical illusion, and the drawing is so small, but a lot of those homes and those duplexes that are on there, they've got about a 45-foot long driveway. And so their property, their property line, the houses have to be at least 20 foot back just to meet zoning setbacks.
Yeah.
And so the sidewalk would still be outside of that, so they would have the same kind of driveway and vehicle parking, not in conflict with the sidewalk that you see in all the other neighborhoods. They just have a lot longer driveway.
Yeah,
before you get out to the
that's
road.
actually, great, because I'm just saying, by looking at the renderings, we don't want to start that.
If we didn't have this extra
Thank you.
right away, you wouldn't,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have all these options.
Well, thank you.
Other commission questions, thoughts? I mean, when we were doing
Start doing
the,
paving.
the two-way pairs, we had a lot of the same conversations about sidewalks on both, sidewalks on one, trees. And generally, every expert we brought to us has said, it's line of sight. Right now, 15th is a straight road, no curves, no bends. So if there's no traffic, people floor it. I think if we can, and I've always hated those sidewalks because they are right there on the road. They don't feel to me like they're particularly safe. So if we can get them pushed back, get a little bit of landscaping in between, I think, I believe that sidewalks on both sides is going to be beneficial. That keeps people from having to cross the road. And again, I think with this project, if we don't do it right this time, it's going to be 100 years before we come back and spend any more money on this road. So it's whatever we want, do it now, because we're not going to come back to it. Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, one of the thing I was talking about, or thinking about with regards to putting a lot of trees in there and creating more visual obstructions for somebody backing out of their yard, is we have to maintain those trees later on, and that's a cost that I would prefer to avoid to a pretty significant extent if we can.
That's true if it is in the city right of way, unless I'm sure you'll have a lot of good neighbors that do their part to take care of it 'cause it's in front of their house, but it would be city.
Well, out of respect
Technically, your city
for Ms.
responsibility.
Woodcock, we'll make them all oak trees. All oak trees. Other thoughts, considerations? I got 4 head nods if this is pretty much what we asked staff to. Some concerns thinking about in the future as we move forward.
Yeah, it's a good start.
I'm with Commissioner Clark. When can we start construction? When can we get this thing done, right? We got an impact fee workshop to have. We got to figure out the funding, all those kinds of things. So we made, to Commissioner Martin's point, we may have to trim back once we start looking at the dollars. But until we get to that point, I'd say let's get the best road we can until we have to make some hard decisions.
We need blacktop more, we need trees, let's roll.
Yeah. All right. Clay or
Thank
Mike, you guys need any other feedback to keep this project moving?
Would the board support a letter from the mayor's signature requesting X amount of land from the school board of Alachua County so that we can construct the stormwater retention basin, some street side parking, and maybe reserve an area for a future park?
All right.
There goes the lacrosse field.
We're gonna work on those at Easton. Travis has them in his back pocket. Don't worry about it.
Right
They're
after the
coming.
tennis courts.
Okay, you got all the feedback you need for that?
We do.
Wonderful. Let's move on
Thank you,
to
Mr.
item 14, construction manager at risk. Mr. Parker. We always save the best for next to last.
I think I have the last one too.
This last two.
Travis Parker, Director of Recreation. I am presenting to you tonight some consideration for the delivery method in which we proceed with the construction of City Hall. I will preface it with, this is a discussion that we began to have as we dug into design, going over options and timelines and supply chain, all those kinds of items. We started talking about the different delivery methods. So no decisions need to be made tonight. This is just something that was brought up to us as an option, and it appears to be a great option. So just a little background as a reminder, we are currently contracted with CHW to work on detailed design. Includes a campus outline, master plan, as well as the detailed design of the City Hall. Three construction methods that we should consider, or when constructing City Hall: the design, build, and then the construction manager at risk. I'll briefly go over all three methods. Design, bid, build is the method that is considered the most traditional. It's the method that we're most familiar with. As an example, this is how we constructed the fire station. Contract with an architect, engineer. They get a set of documents that are construction ready. We put it out to bid, award low bid, come back, discuss possible changes, and then begin construction. You'll see just a couple notes. Usually the lowest upfront cost. It is the low bid option. Design build, this is an option where you start the project completely upfront with a contractor who then handles every portion of the project. That's the architecture, the engineering. It's one contract. We're past that point at this stage, but it is an option in construction. The other option, construction manager or construction manager at risk. This would be the option where we would hire a construction manager for 2 phases of the project, one being the pre-construction, which would be the design. They would come in, work with the design team, project manager, provide insight as to cost savings that we can have, that you would want to get in front of prior to sending it out to bid. Whenever you get to that point, some of the changes can't be made as easily for cost savings. This method typically has a higher upfront cost because you're paying the construction manager through the pre-construction process. So that's typically a 10% number there. I'm sorry, 1%. Mike's right. Supply chain shortages, the reasons why you would hire a construction manager. Supply chain shortages, right now it's really difficult to get material. I searched all over the place just for a 2-gang electrical box today. So that's just a microcosm of what it is with large construction projects now. Largest opportunity for savings comes from pre-construction, as we talked about during the design phase. Best opportunity for value engineering. And then the contractor is selected based on the value they provide to the project, not necessarily the low bid. However, all of the subs are bid through a competitive process to ensure that we are getting the best deal. So the scope of work, if we were to select this method, would be to have 2 task orders. One would be the pre-construction services, review the design for constructability, develop the bid documents, work through the process through the end of the construction documents, basically bid documents that would be ready to go out. The second phase would actually be construction itself, and the construction manager at risk would provide a guaranteed maximum price. That's based off of the knowledge that they have of the project up to that point through design. And they would manage the construction and all trades until project completion. So again, the recommended action is to authorize city manager to request qualifications for the construction management at risk services for the City Hall construction project. Again, this is something that wasn't previously seen as what our option would be, our go-to option for construction method would be. But as we've dug into the design of City Hall and speaking to the architects and engineers, this seems like the method that would provide the most value to us. Although a larger upfront cost, we would be receiving that and then hopefully more in the value that they provide in the engineering portion through the construction documents.
So Travis, this is like hiring a project manager for just one project. Is that a good analogy, or is there?
It is.
Something that misses?
That is a good analogy. Someone that's very good at their trade that would
This specific type of construction.
Yes.
And then they're just here with us through that project, and then they go.
Right.
They're not a city employee.
Mr. Mayor, could I add, this is hiring a construction firm with a contractor's license to serve as the city's project manager. So it may not be one individual from that firm. It may, we'd use the whole firm at different points in it. But it would be getting the contractor in 9 months early in the design process to help us with value engineering. And at least in this case, what staff really saw as the advantage, we think this is a one-year construction project. We also believe that there are potentially times that are 18 months, which has never happened in my career for some of the items. So if we have a contractor on board during the design phase and we know what we're going to buy in terms of air conditioning units, the contractor's already part of the team can order those as soon as the final decision's made on what we're going to need and eliminate some of the long lead times, which I believe is at least as much of a compelling reason to consider this alternative. I would say that on our staff team, we had 3 skeptics of this process with experience. That'd be Jamie, had some experience and thought that this wasn't the right project for a CM at risk. You had me, same opinion, and the designer's project manager, Robert Walpole, all shared the same opinion. These construction supply chain issues, consider it, because we're going to see potentially 6 to 12 month delay in construction time if we're unable to order certain equipment items.
Or permission to go out and seek out qualifications and look to see if there's someone out there who would, or do you want a decision tonight?
No, we're seeking, I shouldn't say best case. If the commission's comfortable, authorize us to advertise for CM at risk. There are qualified firms out there. There's plenty of them, and we would get responses to that. I think if we're going to solicit the proposals, then we should have a pretty good faith idea that if they submit a proposal that we expect, that we would enter into a contract with one of them. So I think if the commission's not sure if they would do this, I would say let's hold off on authorization to go through the solicitation process. If the commission becomes convinced that they believe that the solicitation process is worth it and that we should hire a CM at risk, then authorize us, and then we'll develop the proposal and we'll go out on the streets and we'll solicit proposals from qualified firms.
Okay, and Mike or Travis, take the commission through the timeline. Let's say we've only got one meeting in December. So if we need time to kind of ask more questions or sleep on this, meeting in December. So if we need time to kind of ask more questions or sleep on this, that takes us, we have one meeting in December. What is that? How long is qualification? How much pressure are we under? It seems like we don't have anything else budgeted. We budgeted everything for City Hall that we have so far, right? So it seems to me like we have a little bit of time here to make this decision, but I may be wrong.
We do. The solicitation process will probably take us 2 months to get someone in the seat and working. So on board in February, ready to go, assuming we get a good proposal. If you say we want to wait and reconsider this either at the December meeting, I think it's to the detriment of the project, right? October or after in 23. And so if we don't have a CM at risk on board until March or April. I guess if we're going to have to pick between the two, I would pick March. But I don't think it's detrimental to the project if you delayed this decision for a month.
Okay. I think I have my head wrapped around this, although this is brand new for all of us. Commission questions. Commissioner Clark first, and we'll come right down the line.
Travis, so, and I hear you and I hear Mike. Me personally, I would like, after our impact workshop, because we're now just adding, and I understand the value on the return, that you're saying for 1%, we can save 5. I mean, is that where we're?
Ideally.
Is that what we're hoping?
We're
Well,
hoping
we have an
maybe more.
engineering firm that is the best of the best, and we're gonna add, we're here and we need a, what?
I can speak to the experience that I had with the fire station. And you're talking just intricate details, what an engineer, no offense to anyone that is an engineer, but, you hear it a lot where, they're not generally in the field. So, you have the folks that are actually out there.
Boots on the ground.
You got it.
Okay. But anyway, so for me personally, I don't want to put more money out there right now for us. We need to figure out where our impact fee workshop, see where our money's coming from, and see what our 1% sales tax funding, when we get some of it. So there's 2 revenue sources. I ain't against it at the moment, but for me personally, I'm out of it tonight.
Mr. Farnsworth?
What would be the cost of the construction manager?
Somewhere in the range of 60 to 70,000 for the task order 1, pre-construction.
Will they be able to eliminate all the supply chain shortages?
I would not use the word eliminate, but they could assist in that.
And who supervises the construction manager?
We do.
Yeah.
They work for us. They're hired by us.
So you have to kind of follow up behind them to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Well, it would be similar to, if we go traditional, once we put it out for bid and we select our contractor, it'd be the same type of ensuring that that the contractor performs the work in accordance to the drawings and the specifications. So the advantage, if we think there's an advantage, if there is a 18-month lead time on the HVAC system, having the contractor order it while we're still in design, long before bids are solicited, and it's ordered so that it comes in 18 months, but it comes in 6 months after we start construction, just in time to be put in the building and never slows the building down. We gain the speed of having the contractor order materials before we finish the design. If we do the traditional method, the contractor will bid on the project after the design is complete and will wait until we issue them a PO, select them and issue a PO, then they'll order the HVAC system. So we lose the speed that could come with a supply chain issue. They can't make them, they can't eliminate supply chain issues. They can just order materials 6 to 9 months faster than if we use an alternative method.
All right. It would take a lot of stress off the staff to have someone actually doing all that for us, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, staff can pre-order materials, but when you do that, when the general contractor orders something and it doesn't work out right, it's on them.
Okay.
If we order an air conditioning system that has an 18-month lead time, and when it comes in, it completely won't work, the redesign is on us, or ordering the new piece of equipment with an 18-month lead time is completely on us. If the contractor orders it and gets it wrong, it's completely on them.
Okay. Yeah.
Commissioner Martin?
I mean, I see a lot of value in hiring somebody that's in the trenches dealing with all this problem right now. I think they're, some sort of the difference between, I can do a lot of work on my own car, but it's probably cheaper and faster if I just get somebody else to do it, and a lot less headache. And I don't believe, to Commissioner Clark's point, I don't think we're talking about I don't think it would cost us anything to actually solicit qualifications. It would be more a matter of the expense coming after we've chosen somebody. So we probably have a little bit of lead time to at least point you all in that direction tonight. But we don't have to necessarily pull the trigger and hire anybody until we've had that conversation.
I think that was the point that I was trying to get at, trying to understand when are we actually spending money here? And I don't know about you guys, I don't have overly fond memories of the fire station remodel. So I'm kind of excited to try a different method. Not that we haven't done that method successfully on other projects, but a lot of the conversation here makes a lot of sense in my mind of having a boots on the ground guy that understands the project that's at the beginning. Right. And I remember hearing a lot of the stories. I can't remember the fellow's name at DCC when they were building, and they were having a lot of the problems that we were having. And they brought somebody in that was from the congregation, and he was an expert, boots on the ground kind of guy, and all of a sudden, cost savings and everything started moving on track again. So, I mean, that's him. Yeah. So this sounds like something that, in my mind, we should consider, but I also take Commissioner Clark's point. We haven't had the impact fee conversation yet. I think we could probably do both. I think we can move forward with the solicitations tonight. If the impact fee conversation doesn't go as planned, we can say, wait a minute, pull the plug, tell them that we're not going to do it. Or, that sounds like what we think is going to happen. Let's move forward. I mean, it's new, so I'm always in favor of sleeping on a new process. Commissioner Coleman.
I'm not for this, for the reason is, I mean, I'm for having a manager, that's fine. But, interest rates are going up every day. I just think this whole project, all the way up until last year, we were okay. But now, I just see way the rates are going, supply chain problems that we're talking about before we even started. I think personally this needs to be halted until 2024. That's how I feel. That's the way I'm gonna be till we talk about it. I mean, I just don't think this is a good time. So that's where I'm at.
Mr. Mayor, can I just add that if we were to hire the construction manager, it would be done with two different tasks. So one would be just pre-construction. Then that provides an off-ramp at that time. If we weren't going to proceed with actual construction, we wouldn't have the second task order for them to provide the guaranteed maximum price and move forward. So just something to consider.
And let me make sure I'm understanding that right, because part of what happened to us on Champions Park and the fire station is we made all the decisions, and then by the time we brought in somebody else, a lot of the value engineering things that could have happened, it was too late because we already had the engineering, we already had the design, we already had those kinds of things. So
Yes, Mr.
what
Mayor,
I heard what you're saying is that if we do, this person would serve in sort of two phases. One, making sure that we're making all the right decisions in terms of the design ahead of time, and then we'd have an off-ramp, and then seeing the project all the way through. And I'm not seeing this project probably move forward until 2024 anyway. We're finishing up the design and engineering now. We've got to, if we do this or we don't do this, we don't have anything budgeted in 23 because we're finishing up what we started in 22, right? So it would be 24 anyway. And from a financial perspective, the infrastructure tax just took a whole lot of heat off of us because something that was, out of our hands now just took 15th, State Road, the two-way pairs, and probably a handful of other projects off of our plate, right? So when we were first looking at our financial forecast, we were doing Seaboard Drive, City Hall, 15th, trying to chip seal and pave 30th all at one time. Well, the infrastructure tax is bringing $9 million into our community, $4.5 million on the other things, $4.5 million on Parks and Rec side, $4.5 million on infrastructure side. So I'm looking forward to the impact fee conversation now because, you know, before the infrastructure tax, we needed the impact fees and we still had to find something else to make up the difference. I think we got breathing room now. So I got one commissioner that says, hold the horses on everything, one that says I want to have the impact fee conversation, and I got one who's quiet so far and two that, you know, seem to be.
Impact fees.
Well, impact fees is different now.
No, wait till impact fees.
Wait till impact fees.
Clark.
So we want to, I mean, we could say, hey, prepare the documents, don't submit, don't put the documents out. Let's hear the impact fee conversation, and then they would be ready to go in December, because we only got one meeting in December. How's that sound? Kind of compromise?
I'm ready to go also.
Okay.
I hear you.
Let's roll.
Ready to go.
So, Mr. Mayor, are we hiring tonight?
No.
Are we just
Just
soliciting?
preparing the documents to send out to see what's out there.
Okay, I'm
what
not
the
against the
costs are.
soliciting,
Right.
so I'm against hiring until we get our impact fee studies and our other studies.
And I think the compromise I'm saying
Sounded
is.
like we really wanted to solicit and go ahead and get a
No.
man in the chute.
That'll take 2 months, that process, right? So what I'm saying is, let's direct staff to prepare the documents. We had an impact workshop next week, right? And then at the December meeting, we could say proceed, right, with those documents that would at that point probably be, probably be ready. Or we say, hey, that impact fee didn't go well at all. Let's pull the plug on, and then I think if that's the case, then we need to be thinking about all kinds of things that we want to pull the plug on, right? I mean, if Commissioner Coleman's prediction is true, right, we should be stopping a lot of things, right? Not just one project. But let's keep optimistic. Let's hear that conversation, but let's also go ahead and get some work done in the interim. We got a couple of weeks. We that sound? Head nod, we'll go ahead and get the documents ready. Have the conversation, impact fees, how that goes. We can't say go at a workshop, but we would be able to say go at the next meeting, and we would have a head nod that night of that. This sounds good. We think it works. Does that sound good? Any other feedback you need?
No,
Travis?
Mr. Mayor.
All right. So we're gonna, that's the direction. Do we need to put that in a motion, or we're just, because we're not voting on anything right now. We're just preparing some documents and getting ready. All right, let's move on to the historic power plant re-roof. We're very excited about this one too. All right, Travis, take it away.
All right, so the recommended action is to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Rogers Roofing Corporation in the amount of $34,000 to complete this project. Also to approve, to authorize the city manager to approve change orders not to exceed 25% of the contract amount. The 25% is in case we encounter sheathing, trusses, fascia. It's a really old building. We did get a square foot cost on those items to replace, so we know up front. I'd also like to preface that the total plus the 25%, if that were to happen, would still be under budget. This was programmed into the fiscal year 22-23 budget. We received RFB 2022-05 back. Rogers Roofing was the lowest responsible bidder at $34,000. Just so you guys can kind of see what its current condition is, it's a standing seam roof with a lot of deficiencies. We will be going back with the like, kind, and quality of the product. It'll be a standing seam roof to match the age of the building. And that will include fascia, anything that needs to go on the coping. Again, recommended action is just to authorize the city manager to approve the contract.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth before the conversation even happens, and a second from Commissioner Coleman. Are there any questions on the motion on the floor? Any thoughts on the motion on the floor?
This was all budgeted.
It's all budgeted. We've kind of talked about it. We've just now got the bids back in and the numbers finalized. I don't want anybody watching at home to think we're not doing our due diligence. We have talked about this project for a couple years, you know. Any questions? That's a great bid, 34,000. It almost seems a little too low.
Thank you. That'll be a good time.
Does the public have any questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to comments. Don't forget, guys, I have a whole other meeting after this one, so don't go anywhere. City manager.
Mr. Mayor, just an announcement. We have a really big event for Newberry tomorrow. We're partnering with UF IFAS to hold the Newberry Ag Tech Park Exploratory Meeting. It's out at the IFAS Extension offices here in town. We'll have some UF professors that are in the ag tech industry. They're going to explain what their needs are. We're going to have some folks that do funding for that type of research and what they'd like to see in facilities and communities. It's about a 5-hour discussion to have the different players and actors in the research park business telling us all the things that they see in a need for a park like the one that Newberry has envisioned. You all have invitations to attend. Lunch will be provided, and hope you're able to come out and hear the really good discussion. Noon.
It is straight noon to
Noon to 5. Noon to 5. Also, just want to announce to the commission, I'll be out of the office on Wednesday and Thursday, and generally unavailable on Wednesday. So if you need something related to finance or administration, please get with Dallas. And if you need something operationally, Jamie or the appropriate department head. Mr. Mayor, on Saturday the 3rd is the city's annual tree lighting ceremony. It's the most exciting Christmas is it the county, the state, or the southeast, Mr. Mayor?
All of the southeast.
In southeast.
Yep.
So we invite
New York
the
City's
commission
coming down to take
and
notes.
the community. Yeah, exactly. So that'll be a really fun night, best ever. Someone told me that maybe the reindeer, Santa and his reindeer decided to come back and visit this year after catching a little bit of pushback from them missing last year's event. Mr. Mayor, on the following Saturday, we're having movies in the park over at Berry Park, and we'll be featuring Elf, everyone's favorite Christmas film. And then on Saturday, the 17th, we're having a gingerbread house decorating contest. Yeah. And then later that afternoon or close to evening, we're having our
boys
annual
better show up with your aprons. I'm ready.
parade. And Mr. Mayor, on December the 7th, Wednesday night, December the 7th at 7 p.m., we're having our workshop on impact fees. So look forward to hearing the presentation from our consultant and having really good discussion, getting great feedback on what direction the City Commission would like to go with that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, we have our ethics presentation at the law office on December 14th. Starts at 4 p.m. Give us a holler or let Judy know or Crystal in our office if you're coming, so we'll know what to order.
Did that get rescheduled?
Should be December 14th, but let me make sure.
I thought I missed it. No, it's on my calendar, December 14th, but I thought you did it, and I'm... Okay, all right, awesome.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Start at 4 o'clock.
They provide a great dinner.
We will have you fed and libated.
Yeah. All right. Was that it, Mr.
That's
Attorney?
it.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and Andrea's going to help present. So
all right.
Making a
reappearance?
Special guest appearance.
All right. Madam Clerk? All right, thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Coleman? Commissioner Clark?
Just nothing more than, God bless America.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yeah, I attended the Fall Festival on Saturday, and it was a great success. There were a lot of people there. I spent way too much money, but it was good to see all the people there in Newberry.
Great. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Martin?
The decorations look great downtown. Thank you very much for everybody that was involved in putting that together. DCC has a community event on Friday night with the several food trucks and whatnot, and we'll be playing the movie Polar Express as well. It starts at 6 o'clock Friday night.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Maison?
Thank you. Yes, actually, the festival was nice. A lot of vendors. Downtown looks phenomenal. It does, the windows and all. And you were out there all day, I heard. All day. But on the 18th, which is the last Sunday of this month, there's going to be a toy giveaway that is sponsored by concerned citizens and local businesses. So, and you'll hear more from me about that later at our next meeting with more details. There will be vendors out there as well. There was one other thing. Fog mine. But anyways, the 18th. Well, before Christmas. Before Christmas. Mike, what is the best thing about Switzerland?
I don't know what's the best part of Switzerland, but I bet you.
I don't know, but the flag is a big plus.
That might get called tomorrow morning during a staff.
No, I didn't see it this year.
That was a big game.
Yeah. I heard something about a face mask. Something about a face. I don't know. I
They only play once every 4 years, right?
Yeah. I want to, I know it's getting late, we got a whole other meeting, but I want to say thank you to our city staff over the holiday weekend. There was 2 evenings where residents reached out to me with very unique situations. Their power was off. They had kids in, they had Thanksgiving dinner, and both of them were late night events, and through the wonder that is AMI, and the dedication of our staff, who is not afraid to answer texts at 11 o'clock at night, we were able to get both of those residents on within a matter of minutes. But I appreciate the late night service. I can't imagine being a mom, having kids, Thanksgiving's tomorrow, what am I going to do? So to be able to come to those residents' rescue, it was just wonderful. So I appreciate staff, and I wanted to say thank you publicly for doing that. Please, at the next staff meeting. I can't thank Newberry Main Street Organization enough. The work that they did to make Newberry into a gingerbread village. They've been painting and cutting for months, and some students at the high school showed up, and some volunteers showed up on Saturday, and all of those decorations, fall came down and Christmas went up all in one day, and then to drive downtown and see the city doing all the lights and the stuff. I had a memory pop up on Facebook from 6 years ago when all we had was the Christmas tree. That we had the Christmas tree and the nativity scene, and when you look at then what we've done in 6 years to make Newberry the Christmas capital of Alachua County, we are on track. And we got the city of Alachua sweating over there. They know they've already lost. And we've already talked about the tree lighting ceremony this Saturday, so I'll leave it there and open it up to public comments. Do we have any public comments? Come on down. Oh, and while Miss Peggy's coming down, the festival had a record turnout. I want to say there was 3,500.
3,500, I think.
And that's only the people that come in at that entrance.
At that
the folks
entrance,
that come in on the sides.
The ones who sneak in on the
count.
back, they don't get counted.
Yeah, Miss Peggy.
But I saw a couple commissioners there, besides Monty. But the main thing I'm talking about today is everybody know that UF girls volleyball team is in the regional finals and getting to host. So Friday and Saturday, there'll be two games. Friday, 2 games, final game on Saturday. If you've not gone to volleyball this year, you ought to go. They're really good, especially Marina Markova. Yeah, then you can spend all your money on tickets to UF.
And I did see a Florida basketball game, and I'm pretty sure the Gators won. That's the one I remember. Other public comment? Hearing none, we are adjourned, and we are headed to the BOA.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, we'll get started.